I have literally just typed hi in these two Claude Code windows, and one of them is consuming 33,000 tokens and other one is just consuming 13,000 tokens. And that's the problem with almost everyone's Claude Code setup these days. There's so much hype around MCP tools, plugins, skills, everyone's saying just install these and it'll make your Claude Code amazing. And because of that, everyone's context window has become so bloated, which is leading to worsening the performance of their Claude Code. So I went through people like Boris, Cherny and Matt Pocock and saw how they set up their Claude Code. I kept whatever I found useful, and in this video I'm going to give you 4 rules which will make your harness a software factory. So if this sounds interesting to you, let's get started. So the first rule I want you to live by is protect your context. Now most of the LLMs that we use these days are 1 million context windows, and you will be shocked to know that only 15 to 20% of it is usable. Beyond that, LLM starts hallucinating a lot and you cannot trust its output, especially if you're working on something which is mission critical. And this is a very hotly debated topic, but there's a general consensus that around 150,000 tokens, any LLM that you use is mostly going to give you garbage. But why does this happen? So when you add even one token to your context window, it's not just one token that you're adding. You need to store the new tokens relationship with every other single token that is there in the context window right now. That's the entire basis of modern LLMs and how they work. Like in this case, you can see there are 4 tokens in the context window. LLM needs to store relationship of every token with every other token in the context window, which is why it's a very hectic operation for the LLM as well. And as you use more and more tokens, the LLM's efficacy for your tasks keep getting reduced, which is why I've actually invented this term called hi test, which is you go to your LLM and see how many tokens get used when you type the word hi. Like in this case, there are 33,000 tokens that are getting used, and in the second one, 13.5 thousand tokens are getting used. But why is there so much difference in these two? Well, the answer to that is the system prompt. And I went through this blog by Matt Pocock in which he had written a script using which he measured that how much tokens are some of the workflows that he doesn't use actually take up. So he wasn't using workflow, he wasn't using design sync and a bunch of other tools as well. And he saw that the things he's not even using are consuming so many tokens for him, which is why he talks about how you can disable the things that you do not require. Like in the example that he gives in this, he wants to disable the plan mode. And I know a lot of people must be wondering, we always use plan mode, right? So why is he disabling that? I'll have an answer to that shortly. But he removed the plan mode, he removed the push notifications, he removed the remote trigger, whichever things he doesn't use, he just got rid of it. And frankly, when I look at this list, it's actually a pretty good list, and often even I don't use these tools at all. So it makes so much sense to remove them. Other than that, he also removed artifacts. Now artifacts might be useful to you, but they are honestly not that useful to me, so I removed them. But it also removes Claude AI connectors, which means all the tools, the external tools that you've added would get removed. And this I did not do because there are certain tools that I require. So the common practice that I do is I cherry pick whichever tools I require in the context window, I add them, rest I just remove. So you can go through this, and in fact I would highly recommend you to go through the documentation and figure out what are the tools that you require and engineer your context exactly how you need for your workflow. Now in this context, it's so important because we freed up the first 20,000 tokens, which are gold. We made them available again by just following this technique, and I loved it. Rule number 2 is use skills more than system prompts. And this is such a good practice to do, and I'll tell you why. So what happens is when you add things to your system prompt, or let's say CLAUDE.md, what happens is that you keep paying for those tokens every single turn, and they are actively being used in your context. But skills, even though they are just prompts, have a special capability which is called progressive disclosure. So what progressive disclosure is, that it keeps a description, which is just a simple instruction on when to use the skill, into the system prompt, and doesn't include the entire SOP, which could be hundreds of lines and thousands of tokens. It keeps the entire skill hidden from the context window, and only when the LLM requires it, or when you manually say that you want to use the skill, they get added to the context window, which gives you a superpower that you have that skill handy, but it's not polluting your context window. And that's why the entire industry had gone crazy when skills were first introduced by Anthropic. Now, knowing skills is one thing, but what are the skills that are relevant to you? Because there are thousands, if not millions of skills which people have put on GitHub just like that. Now I have actually done the hard work for you, and here are the 4 skills that I almost use every single day. Now these are all coming from Matt Pocock skills, and like it's a great repository of skills. These are just the skills that I like. You can go through his entire repository. He's done a really good job from thinking in terms of developers and what are the needs and requirements they have, and created his entire repository along that side. But here are the 4 skills that I actually like in his arsenal. So the first one is grill with docs. Now when to use this skill? Now in the line of business that we are a software company, and a lot of times clients come to us, they have their own terminologies, they have their own jargons, they have their own language in which they talk. And that doesn't translate to software directly. And oftentimes the requirements are very vague. So what this skill helps us really do is set up a shared language, which is that it relentlessly interviews us and understands our requirements deeply. And not just that, it also sets up a document, which is like the shared language between the client and me. And this has actually replaced the plan mode for me, which we were talking about in the previous section. Now I only use Grill Me and Grill with Docs whenever I'm working on a new project for a client. The second one is test-driven development. Now it's not something new. It's been there for probably decades. Now what happens is with coding agents, there's a big problem. If you ask them to code and then ask them to write test cases for that code, which is also, by the way, what exactly every developer does, the biggest problem with that is LLM, when it writes the test cases, it makes sure that it aligns with the code, which means it's never gonna write the adversarial test case or the edge case that you might have thought of. And on paper, you might feel, oh, my software is ready, but it isn't, because it hasn't thought through the edge cases and the adversarial test cases in which your code might fail. So what this forces LLM to do is, it first thinks about the edge cases. It thinks about the test cases on which your code will fail. It doesn't write any piece of code. It just writes the test cases first. Now, of course, the test cases will fail, which is why you'll have a red CI. But as soon as you approve that these test cases are enough, it writes those test cases until all the test cases are met, which is amazing. And I've personally used it, and I think this is the best skill that I've added to my arsenal in the past 6 months. The third one is, and this is a new one that I've started using, which is teach skill. Now, whenever you want to learn something new, it's oftentimes very hard for us to figure out what is the right curriculum and what is the right order in which I want to learn a new skill. So what this does is you give it a mission, and then it figures out, by searching the internet, it figures out what are the resources that are important for you. It creates lessons for you, and it also records your learning journey. And you can just learn whatever you want by just talking to Claude, and you can just read the HTML files that it generates for you and keep upskilling yourself. So that's a really cool skill that I found. Now these are the skills which you can get from his repository, and you might have some other skills as well which belong to other people. But what if you want to create a skill of your own? That's where skill creator skill comes in picture. And this is a skill which is present in almost every coding agent. Codex, Claude Code, everyone has the skill where you can create your own skills. But the next question would be, are they going to be good, usable or not? Because everyone has created skills, but nobody uses them because they are useless, right? And I'll tell you, the third rule that you need to follow is eval every single skill and AI agent you develop. Now, why that's important? So let's say you give AI two exactly same prompts. Will it generate the same output? The answer is not. Like in this example itself, hi, what can I do for you? And in the second one, it says, hi, what can I help you with? Now, in essence, they mean the same thing, but they're not exactly same. And the reason for that is AI is non-deterministic. The output can be same or cannot be same. You cannot predict it, which is why most of us, how we create skills is we give AI a task. It does a pretty bad job at it, or let's say 90% of it. Then you keep reprompting it until it's done. Then you say, convert it into a skill. Now that's a good place to start, but does that mean your skill is ready? Absolutely not. Because the prompt that AI will generate for your skill worked once. It doesn't mean that it'll work again. And to make sure that it consistently works, you have to write evals, which are just test cases for AI systems. So how you would go about it is, you would create a prompt or a skill, you let the agent run, and then you see the entire transcript of what agent did. Not just the final output, what tools did it use? Whether it used the right SOP that you gave it or not. The entire script needs to be evaluated. And if it's deterministic, you can write a script that checks the transcript. If it's non-deterministic, you can either use a human to evaluate it or a LLM judge to do it for you. If it passes all the test cases you write, that means the skill is good. If it doesn't, you improve the skill until all the test cases are passed. In fact, I just did a video, you can check it out up there, where I created an eval for a skill and gave you the entire framework using which you can create your own evals as well. Now, the fourth rule that I have for you is cut down your Claude.md like a maniac. And I mean it. And I'll tell you why I say that. So it's not just me who is saying that. In one of the latest interviews, even Boris Cherny said that get rid of your Claude.md files. And the reason is most of what you put in your Claude.md, which is like the folder structure, the tech stack, basic things, these are things agent is now able to explore by just consuming maybe 1000, 2000 tokens. But if you create a Claude.md, which has the entire description of what your front end is, what your back end is, what your structure is, that gets added to your every single session. And even the sub agents that your agent is invoking would have the same Claude.md. And most of the times you don't even need them. Like, I'll give you an example. This is one of the Claude.md. If you look at this is such a stupid file, and this is pretty big. Like, all these instructions that are getting added to my context window every time I use. And by the way, I created this using /init command. And this is the command almost every YouTuber on the planet has told you to use. And this is the worst command of all. Just look at this. The first line itself. This file provides guidance to Claude Code when working with code in this repository. Like, how absurd and how basic that line is. And you know what? Every LLM doesn't have infinite capability to take care of all the instructions you give it. There's actually a limit to it. And beyond around 200, 300 instructions that you give to an LLM, it doesn't hold up. That means the instructions that you're going to give after this are going to have a lower priority than this. Just cut down whatever you don't need. Like, keep it really simple, like basic details. Like, if you can just put maybe a little bit of what your application does, what is the goal of this application, a bit about the tech stack, which is non-obvious, and maybe the environment that you're in. That's it. And not just project specific Claude.md, you have to be cautious of the global Claude.md. And I'll show you the Claude.md, the global Claude.md that I have. And I think this is something that I've experimented a lot. And these are the only 3 rules I want the agent to follow. The first one is do not use M dashes. I just hate it. It's like a synonym to AI generated text these days. So I want to get rid of this. The second one is be extremely concise, avoid over explaining or using jargons. Now, this is also one of the problems that at times I'm not able to understand what it means. So I want it to be concise and simple to understand. And the third one, which is interesting, is when making technical decisions, do not give much weight to development cost. Now, if you've used Claude Code or any other coding agent and you've asked it to create a estimate of a particular feature, you must have already seen that it gives you weirdly big estimates like 72 days, 2 months. And oftentimes, if you just ask it to implement it right there, it will do it. Automatically, that 72 days or 2 months goes down to 15-20 minutes. The reason for that is these agents are trained on human experiences, and oftentimes they take shortcuts without even informing you, just basis what they think is a cheaper solution to build, which is why this is an important decision that I've added in Claude.md. And that's it. That's all the things that I've added. If I feel the agent is making a mistake, I will manually go ahead and add this to my Claude.md. So if you want to take one thing from this video is don't copy my setup. Don't copy Matt's setup. Start with the thinnest harness, identify where is it that it's failing, and add whatever you think is necessary to fix that issue. And for more such amazing videos, like and subscribe for more.